episode of the Jason Wydro Show. Today I'm presenting to you episode 91, and we are discussing the next part of the United States Constitution. It would be wise to watch my previous videos on the first parts that I did go over and clarify. Section We the People, the preamble, has already been covered. In this episode, I'm going to talk about Article 1, Section 1. So you can see the part we're going to be discussing that's highlighted right here. And the first thing we're going to go over is Article 1, Legislative. What does this mean? In legal terms, an article is a section of a contract or an agreement or something written that basically gives an outline and description of something to follow as rules. It's legalese, it's legal talk. Typically, when an article is referred to, it means that there's multiple articles, meaning there's more than one. So it could be Article 1, it would be about a specific thing. Article 2 could be about a specific thing. Article 3, etc. The U.S. Constitution is made up of different articles. So this is Article 1, so it's the first one. And legislative refers to law. These are the rules and policies of the land we live in. Every country has its own form of legislation. Every state, every city, and towns have their own forms of legislation. These are the basic rules that we follow that are considered law. And if you've seen my earlier videos covering the first part of this constitutional document, you will know that I covered the area that this U.S. Constitution is a document made up of many parts. And a constitution, again, is something that is constituted, meaning made up of many parts. So in its entirety, it's referred to as the U.S. Constitution, or the Constitution of the United States. We've heard it said many ways. And just below Article 1, we have Section 1. So within an article, again, remember there can be many articles there's many articles in the Constitution. Section 1 would be just the first part of Article number 1. So let's go ahead and read through this first part, and I'm going to go piece by piece to make sure we can get a really good understanding of what this says. So the first part says, all legislative powers herein granted. I'm actually going to read a little bit further, then we're going to go over this part. So all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States. So basically, as some of you may or may not know, the Constitution really is the fundamental document that describes the basic laws of the United States. These are the very fundamental rules that make up our country. And every state, every town, every city in the United States uses this document to some degree to make the laws and rules of their state or city or town. Virtually all legal decisions in courts or anywhere else in the United States are based on this document. So what this is saying here is, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress. So basically, this document grants power to a group of people. This group of people, which I'll describe more in detail in the next video, is referred to as Congress. I'm sure you've heard of Congress before, or a congressman or a congresswoman. These are the individual people that assist in making new laws or changing laws, etc., in the United States of America. So basically, this first part is saying that all the power, all the ability to make those decisions is put into this group of people. This group of people is relied upon and counted upon to make the laws of the land. And they have the power to do that, meaning they have the authority to put these laws into place, modify laws, etc. It's a very big responsibility. If you've ever watched the news, you know there's a lot of talk about congressmen, congresswomen, new laws, what's constitutional, what's not, and a lot of back and forth on what our rights are in this country. So I'm going to go ahead and continue reading. It says, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. In the next video, I'm going to get more into detail of what each of these groups of people are. But for the time, I'll give you a simple explanation. So the Senate consists of 100 people. They're also called senators. There are a total of 100 senators in the Senate. You've probably heard the term U.S. Senate or senator in relation to Congress. Now, the House of Representatives, this is a much larger group. This consists of 438 people at present date. Now remember, the Senate has 2 people from every state. There's 50 states in the United States. That makes 100 senators. The House of Representatives is unique because most states have a different amount of people that represent them. A simple way to look at it is like this. Every state is broken up into different districts. A district is just a section of a state. You may have heard the phrase before, we're in District 7, or we're in District 3, or we're in District 2, in reference to voting or political talk. Yes, it's true. This topic can get really confusing because we have 50 states. Every state is structurally different in these ways. So it can get really confusing. Not to mention, every state has its own government and its own representatives that do different things at different levels, separate from the federal government representatives. So there's a lot of different moving parts between the state and the federal government. And when I say federal government, I'm referring to the groups that maintain business at the White House in Washington, D.C., as opposed to your state capital, such as Salem, Oregon, or Tallahassee, Florida, or Sacramento, California, as those are all the capitals of each of those states. So typically, every district in a state has a certain number of representatives. And generally speaking, every district only has one representative, but every state can be made up of many districts. And I am sorry if that sounded confusing the way I said that. Again, so every state has different districts. The districts are generally said by number, and every district has a representative. And I want to make one correction here. I believe previously I said there were 438 representatives of the House of Representatives. Actually, there's 435. And to give you some ideas of the numbers for each state, here is some. California has 53 state representatives. Florida has 27. Vermont, 1. Michigan, 14. New Mexico, 3. Those are a few examples. So some states have the same amount, and some states have more. And generally, the number of representatives per state is determined by the population. And that population is based on census information. Census is the data that's tracked to use to determine how many people are living in the country, what cities they're in, what states they're in, et cetera, et cetera. And in 2020, for example, we have a major census survey being done, meaning you might have received a postcard in the mail with a website link or received some other material on where to go to fill out your information so that the government knows about you and can count your whole household. So let's recap on this real fast. So basically, all the laws that are created in this country, the authority and the power to create those laws lies in the group called Congress. Congress is made up of 2 parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives. And it's pretty simple to understand Congress because Congress is just basically a meet or a group of coming together of people. So in this sense, we have the House of Representatives and the Senate, who together make the Congress, which again is a joining of the group. And these groups collectively together make the laws of the land. Now, I'm not going to get into too much detail on this next point, but you're probably familiar with the term political party or political affiliation. Most of us are most familiar with Republican and Democrat. These are the 2 major parties in the United States, meaning the 2 major groups that have different political views. Some of them not so different, but some of them very different. So basically, the group, the Democrat or Republicans who have the majority of individuals in either the Senate or the House of Representatives, can sometimes have more power and control over the laws of the land. Just as an example, let's say that one group really liked oranges and wanted to make sure that orange trees, let's say oranges were never wasted. And the other group said, you know what, we can make orange juice out of oranges. So one group says, no, never touch orange, don't do anything with oranges. And the other group saying, yes, we want to make orange juice with oranges. And we could say that a law was going to be passed saying, we can make orange juice out of oranges. Let's just, for the sake of example, let's say the Democrats say, yes, we want to make orange juice out of oranges because it's really good to drink. It tastes great and it has vitamin C. And the Republicans say, no, oranges are meant to be on trees. They should never be squeezed or anything, or you should never make juice out of them. So then there's a law that says we can make orange juice, the new law. And so the Congress gets together. They have big discussions about the law. And generally speaking, very simple terms, it's voted on. It's voted on by the House of Representatives, and it's voted on by the Senate. Again, this is an oversimplified explanation, but it generally goes one way. One group votes on it, and then the next group votes on it. And then the president, generally speaking, will sign it into law. If it makes it to the president, you've probably watched the news recently or at some point, and you heard the bill, which is a law, made it to the president's desk, and then the president signs it. But sometimes in the process between the House of Representatives and the Senate, there can be a lot of discussion, and it can take a long time. And sometimes a new law, let's say the orange juice law that I was just talking about, a made-up law, could be put on a shelf and forgotten about because can't make up their mind about it. So there's all kinds of rules and things that follow about how laws are made, but the important thing to know that it's made by this group of people that all together represent all the states of the United States. So if you have a representative in your state or a senator in your state that likes making orange juice, and that law goes on the table, you might get the recommendation, write a letter and call your senator. Tell them, please vote on the orange juice law because I love to drink orange juice. Again, this is a totally made up law that I'm talking about, but I'm doing it for the sake of example. Well, I hope this helps explain Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution and what it states there. So you should have a better understanding of how laws are made in the United States of America and why it's very important for you as a citizen, if you agree or disagree with a specific law, that you write a letter or call your state senator or your state representatives, particularly the representative in your district, and tell them, please help me support this law. And that's your best way to help change laws. Now, of course, you can propose your own law, but that's a very different road that you have to follow to get to, although it has been done before. The basic point is understanding the structure of the U.S. Constitution will greatly help you understand how laws are made, how you can affect a change in laws, and what you can do and what your rights are in it that can affect and bring about those changes. I hope this was helpful and educational. Until next time, thank you for watching The Jason Wydro Show. More to come. Have a great night.